Today's guest has a different kind of bullying story, not from kids, but from the adults around him. After hosting his own podcast, Bully This, Tyler realized the words and labels from adults shaped how he saw himself growing up. We'll get into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is Tyler Uriah. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear your story. I don't get too much of this topic where adults kind of participate in the bullying a bit. But before we get to that route, tell me about your childhood life. What was it like growing up?
I guess I'll paraphrase. A lot of people it's always been tough for me to talk about, although like the last couple of years and with the podcast and stuff. By the way, doing the podcast, our charity podcast, has changed my life in so many ways and opened up so many things. It's always been almost been like therapy because a lot of
Yeah,
things that I didn't realize when I started talking about them and then started having them go over in my head, they really opened some doors and some lights. And, so for instance, I'll just drop it. It's like my father was in prison, grew up on welfare, it's was very typecast as a kid, and so early on. And so a lot of that stuff I didn't learn to label until later on, or even my fear of this, right?
yeah.
I think there's two ways in life to know if you're going to grow and become a better person. And that's number one. It's if you're going to do something, you're thinking about doing it and you fear it and your heart is in the right place, you have to do it. Right. And so I
Yep.
use that on myself and I'm like, okay, well, bullied kids. I saw this documentary called Bully. Have you seen it on
I
Netflix?
haven't. And many guests have told me to check it out, and I still haven't checked it out because when I get home, I'm usually tired from teaching classes all evening that I
Yeah.
wind down and go to bed. So,
Yeah. Well, and then this will work you up. It's so I had just sold my company and I was quote unquote retiring for a little bit. I don't even know what it's called, break. Something.
okay.
And so I had time and, I really wanted to help with some stuff that frustrated me. And I saw that documentary and it broke my heart. These kids are getting beat up on the bus. And originally, I'm just going to go ride the bus with these kids. That was my original thought.
Yeah.
It's well, Tyler can't ride the bus with every kid in America, And so I have a healthy amount of empathy and it's surrounded by anger for not outwardly, inwardly about things like that. And so that evolved into a couple different things, and then finally we landed on a podcast for bullied kids, basically interviewing people that were bullied in their youth and became successful adults and telling that story. And so the hope was we would show kids there was light at the end of the tunnel. And that was a huge fear for me. It's and I didn't realize why that fear. But if you've grown up with a father who's talking in code on the phone and you're moving schools every other week and, is kind of in this atmosphere of you're not allowed to talk about home life and things like that. No wonder you fear the camera, right? When you've never been
Yeah.
allowed to share with even a stranger. So realizing that it was wow, or coming across the bullied topic, it's I just did it because I saw these kids getting picked on the bus and it broke my heart. It's but then I realized through the podcast, it's I was bullied, but we didn't define it that way. It's we didn't define adults bullying a kid as bullying, right? And so I
Yep.
never thought about it that way until the podcast. So I guess that's, kind of a paraphrase of my early life and then how I got into working with bullied kids and, and facing fears, and what it's opened my, eyes to about my own upbringing.
Yeah. So tell me what these adults were doing to you that at that time you didn't consider was bullying.
Yeah, I was told that I was stupid and I would never amount to anything. And and to be fair, I didn't help a lot. I was what is this school BS? I was I was way more interested in working. I had my first full-time job at 13 and I'm I want this money stuff. It's we
Mm.
didn't have money for clothes and food was tough and things like that. I wanted to have that stuff. And so work made a lot more sense to me. But so my shutting down and then, teachers weren't real fair to me anyways. And so it was easy to shut it down. But then the principal of our high school, super, super hard on me, was not fair to me. They knew my dad was in prison, so they typecast me. My mom was a partier. And so her and her boyfriend would smoke cigarettes nonstop. It made our clothes smell like smoke. And so when I'd go to
Yeah.
school, I'd smell like smoke. And so I was labeled a bad kid. I've still never had a cigarette in my entire life. If something went missing because I was the poor kid, automatically I stole it. It's so I I look back at it and it's like all good stuff now because it leads me to everything I do today and my heart and
Yeah.
everything like that. I don't know that it was fair and I don't want to see it happen to other kids, but in a way, I'm kind of glad it happened to me. Right.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment that you can remember being like typecast or what a teacher said to you that really bothered you?
Like there was one moment where like I got in trouble for being late all the time or something like that. And my mom, it's really I try to help people with this in my business podcast. It's like there is a popper mindset, you know. We might not label it as like kings and poppers like we did hundreds of years ago. It still exists, you know, and like I analyzed my mom a lot and my mom didn't think we were good enough to like push the system. You know, it's like so I remember she went in because I was in trouble and they made her go speak to the principal, you know, and like he was always just such a prick to me, you know, and then like he's
Yeah.
saying all these things about me and you know to my mom and stuff like that. My mom doesn't think we can stick up for ourselves because we're poor, you know, and then she leaves and this is pretty messed up. The moment she left, he pulls me back out of class and he goes crazy at me. And then he pulls me in to the attention teacher and they both go crazy at me, you know, and they're telling me I'm stupid and I'll never amount to anything and, you know, things like that. And like I didn't know any better. I thought they were right. You know, it's like I for about until I was 22 years old, I thought I was stupid. I thought I was really unintelligent, right? I was scared of college, you know, because I didn't think I was smart enough. So that was like I almost believed him. And that's what's sad is like there was a close point where it's like, yeah, I'm a fuck up. I'm going to be a fuck up. Sorry for swearing. I'm a mess up. You
It's
know, I'm
okay.
going to be a mess up. You know, it's like they're right, you know, about me. And so that was really impactful. I still think about it a lot. And you know, like I want to give a side note to this now. You know, it's like, and this is an interesting segue. It's like I built a business from nothing, right? And
Yep.
nobody thought I could do it. And I think part of me the whole time thought about those two guys yelling at me and telling me I never not to. And I'm in fact, I'm positive of it because the way I was able to be successful in my business is I outworked everybody else. I
Yeah.
worked more than any human would. I gave up dating for 5 years. I lived in a trailer with no water and no electricity. All this was based on anger of telling me I never amount to nothing. And what was so interesting, and I don't wish this on the man, the day I sold that company, the day I sold that company and signed the dotted line on selling that company, and maybe that I don't know, is that moment I became success was the day the principal died.
Oh.
So that was really, and I didn't wish it on him, right? Like I
Yep.
had
Yep.
gone past it at that point, but it was so ironic that the person that actually pushed me into this and probably was one of the biggest reasons I didn't fail because I was so angry about it, died the day I sold my company. So weird, you know?
Hmm.
Life is weird.
Yeah.
And I'm not laughing at his death. You know, I don't wish
No,
that on
no,
him at all. I'm
no.
laughing because it's like the world gives you what you need if you'll allow it
Yep.
to and you'll use it appropriately.
Yeah. And just quickly, how old were you when that happened? With that conversation with the principal and getting pulled out?
I was probably 16, 15, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. So you still had go through a couple years of high school yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean, I
af
truly believed what they were saying. You know, I was
yeah.
so close to being a high school dropout, you know. The only reason I wasn't is because I clept out, you know, and so like they put me in a classroom and I just basically did a bunch of credits, you know. So I graduated a couple months late, but I still graduated.
Yeah. Still made it towards the end.
Yeah.
What was life like after high school? What did you end up start doing afterwards?
You know, I did a lot of, like, meandering, you know, and not really knowing. I'm lucky, I guess. I've always had a really strong work ethic, you know, and that's, like, really driven me. I've never had a problem. I've pretty much had a job in school or 2 jobs in school or a business and school, you know, like, for 25 years now, you know, and so I did a lot of wandering around, you know, and then, like, got usually 2 jobs at a time. I remember I was bartending and then I walked in to get a lube tech job and the automotive place that I went to get the lube tech job, they're like, "Why don't you try being on the sales floor?" And then that taught me my sales career. I mean, here's the thing, it's like car sales is really hard sales
Yeah.
and there is some sleazeballs in that industry. You can be such like if you're a good human being and you care and you know like you give good customer service, you can be such a beacon of difference. So I killed it.
Yep.
Like I absolutely did so well in that. But then there was like, you know, like there was some, you know, where I was working a ton and like just not really enjoying what I was doing. And like that was another pivotal shift for me. Like I kept applying for other sales jobs because I'm like, look, I have this incredible work ethic, these huge, I was breaking all these records as a salesman. I'm like, I want to go work for a product I love, you know? And so it was like spy sunglasses or something that I used, you know? I was like,
Yeah.
but everybody was like, well, no college means no job, right? This was like, I know it's changing now, but then you couldn't get a job even in sales if you didn't have a college degree. So I finally like, that's what faced my fear of going into a college. And then like that kind of changed my trajectory completely.
Yeah. When did your mindset change from I'm a loser, I'm an F up to, I can do this?
Yeah, I think it's like, and I love to help people more with this, but I think it's little wins, you know? It's like, I love the gym, you know? So little wins in the gym. I love mixed martial arts. So little wins in the mixed martial arts gym, you know? It's like facing the first fear that was finally like, screw them, you know? Like, I'm going to prove them wrong and going into
Yep.
college. And originally I rolled for a business degree and like I was doing so well. I thought I was stupid, you know, and then it was easier than I thought. And I was like, well, now that I'm like doing well, I'm like, what's the hardest degree they got in this place? You know, I'll show them. And that was a biochemistry degree. So I ended up switching my major to biochemistry and I got a biochem degree. So
Wow.
yeah, it's like it was just little ekes of confidence, right? You find a little confidence in the gym because you're getting strong. You find a little
Yep.
confidence in the mixed martial arts gym because like your technique's improving and you're doing well sparring, you know, and things like that. Then you find a little win in like you're doing well in a class, you know. It's like you find these little wins and you build this confidence to the point where it's like I can do this, right? And once you get to desensitized to I can do this, then the world goes up and now I know I can do anything, right? It's
Yeah.
like it went from scared to go to school to now I'm working on $1 billion company, right? I've started a charity documentary. I have 2 podcasts. I have several businesses right now, you know. All that came from originally fighting these small fears and getting a little bit of confidence and now like the world's my oyster. That's the best answer I can give you around that.
Yeah. Especially public speaking, because as a bullied kid or a kid who is told they're a loser, not going to be anything, public speaking's got to be the hardest thing to start doing. And you started off in car sales, so that's straight up going up to people and asking them whatever it is that you need to ask them. That's got to be tough, you know.
Yeah, people hate you when they walk in. It's so it's
Yeah.
made s and, like, there was the threshold of, like, what sales was, you know, in car
Yep.
sales 'cause they hated you, you had to overcome that. It's really competitive. It's the only thing in the planet you brag how little you pay for instead of how much you pay for. "Hey, look it, I paid $100,000 for this Rolex." And in your car, it's like, "I only paid $20,000 for this," right? You know, and
Yeah.
so but, like, now when I open my businesses, sales was so easy. You know, because
Yeah.
I built like the businesses to have a good experience, to be moral and ethical, and like have good products that offer like a good solution for what they need. And then I was never afraid too in our businesses to be like, this isn't the right solution for you. This is where I think you should go. And that actually led to more clients than anything else because then they're begging to buy something from me. They're like,
Yeah.
here's a good person that actually cares, you know? And so like all the time, like doing the right thing has always been like a way for success for me.
Yeah. So you got your mindset changed. You're very successful. What made you start a podcast on bullying?
Yeah, the big thing was like I call myself an actionable empath now. You know, and
Okay.
so after I broke down those fears of like I can't do anything and now I have this like delusion of grandeur that I can do anything, you know, and I think that's important. I just like if something affects me, you know, if it hits me here on that, you know when you get something that like hits you here in the heart, but it also
Yep.
hits you in the stomach at the same time. And it just makes
Yep.
you so sick and it almost makes you want to explode in a way, like, because you feel, like, so powerless to help, right? You know, it's like seeing, you know, my niece, you know, like, something happens to her, like, she trips and falls. I wanna help her in that moment, I'm so powerless, you know? I can go up and say, like, "Hey, you know, like, let's get you a Band-Aid," or something like that, but you wish you could take the pain away, right? I guess is
Yeah.
the biggest point. And it's
Yep.
like, when I feel that pain and that frustration, it's like I get bent out of shape to the point I have to do something about it. And that was the bullying podcast. You know, it's like I was willing to finally face a fear. I mean, I turned down 4 reality shows in my first business, if that tells you
Oh, wow.
anything about how afraid of the camera I was, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started the bully podcast, and it's like I hope to help other people. I changed my own life in the process. You know, it's like it led to everything I'm doing now. Facing those final fears, you know, now I get asked to speak. I'm on podcasts. You know, it's like we've started a charity docu series where I travel the world. I've spent 2 months in Cambodia filming the most amazing man I've ever met in my life. These things have all impacted my life tremendously just by trying to be helpful to others.
That's awesome. So during your podcast, you mentioned to me that you realized what happened to you in school was bullying. So, how did that realization came about for people who haven't heard your podcast?
I think it's like as you're like walking through, we use the hero's journey, like which
Yep.
is what Joseph Campbell, wrote a book on. It's like all this like underlying every story in the world has this underlying context to like why it impacts us, right? And it's this we use that as our journey. And I realized through that journey when we are interviewing people, I'm like, yeah, I went through all these things too, but it was just adults instead of kids. And then I realized bullying is more than like just, like a kid bullying another kid. It can be animal abuse. It can be spousal abuse. It can be anytime somebody's in a form of some sort of control or power, and then they
Yep.
take advantage of others because of it. That is
Yeah.
bullying. And
Yep.
so then I've focused, it's like I can't stand bullying on any level. I can't stand when a big business bullies a little business. I can't stand when a man abuses a woman or like somebody abuses an animal. It's like, or obviously the kid stuff. It's like all that stuff is unfair, unright, and I won't stand for it. And I don't mean physically. I mean, that's why I use my voice. I want to make
Yeah.
it not cool to bully people in every single way.
Yeah. And you made a good point a while back. Teachers didn't think you mounted too much back then. You came from a broken household. We both kind of have a similar story, except, the parents' situation is a bit different. But teachers didn't believe in you at that time, all because of your parents and how your life. And then, I've worked with kids where the mom would tell me, like, the teachers would they don't have no belief in my son. They want him to try out for different things, and when I get these kids, they are the hardest kids to teach because you have to teach them how to believe in themselves. You have to teach them self-worth again. And it's
Yeah.
very tough. Like the hardest students I come across in martial arts is getting those kids who are told they were nothing.
Yeah.
And I really wish teachers would just, not going to say all teachers do this, but the teachers who are not giving kids a chance, the opportunity to show us, who these kids can be or have those small wins, because you and I had our small wins in martial arts. That's where we got it from.
Yeah. And on any level, I know like people look at my story and be like, "Oh, it's a good thing." It's like, and no, it's not a good thing. It should never happen,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
it's so easily and it's like what's the stats on like a kid's dad who goes to prison, them going to prison is like 95%. It's like
Yeah, it's
I
very
barely
high.
beat an odd, and that
Yep.
didn't help. And so I needed people that put their arm around me, not push me out the door to be what they wanted me to be. But then I finally like, Tyler, they're rooting for you to fail. That's what they're telling you. They're not doing
Yeah.
this out of tough love. They are literally rooting. You are lesser to them. It's like they're
Yeah.
rooting for you to fail. You want to prove them right. And that way, like from then on, every hard sparring session, that like that little thing eeks in the back of your head, or every pull up, where you don't want to get to the last one, it's like I always thought about myself, them cheering it on the sideline not to do it, and that's why I
Yeah.
did it anyway. So,
Yeah. For myself growing up, my parents were just poor.
mhm,
They were together, they were poor, and I wore secondhand clothes. They weren't the
yeah,
best. Hygiene wasn't the best.
yeah,
There would be nights where I would not eat at all. We
mhm,
would go without food and constantly picked on.
yeah,
Even teachers would see it, they'd ignore it.
yeah.
Nobody came to my aid, and it wasn't until martial arts where I finally met friends to kind of like, hey, you can do this. You are good. And actually, my confidence get built up until like my senior year in high school.
Oh wow,
So a little bit later on during life, but
yeah.
yeah, it's tough when you lose that confidence, self worth. It's tough to get that back.
And people just need to find it in something. That's what I've realized. At first I thought it was like, let's just get every kid involved with mixed martial arts, right? Or martial arts.
Yeah.
But then I realized it's like, that's not everybody's thing. It's
Yep.
like, you can play the oboe and get confidence in the fact that you're a good oboe player or a soccer player, like, or chess player, whatever the thing is, like and then you're surrounded in a community too. That was the other thing I learned about bullied kids. It's like the number one thing you've got to do is you've got to find them at least one friend. Like when
Yeah.
kids silo and they're all alone, that's when they're dangerous. So finding something they're interested in that can find them a community through church, through mixed martial arts, through soccer, through anything they're interested in, that's imperative. And I wish my parents would have been around more to get me more involved with that sort of stuff, when I was a kid. But I mean, like I'm the things worked out the way they were going to work out, and I'm glad. I would do it a million times again if it helps anybody with the story, right? If it helps anybody, like, because I kept saying, like, where's the hero for me? Where's the person that came from this and became something amazing that I can look at, right? I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I say this all the time. My
Yeah.
choices weren't, a McDonald's or Harvard. Those weren't my choices. He's not the path I can watch. Bill Gates had rich parents, that like adapted him to the computer early on. It's like that wasn't an entrepreneur I could look at. Give me somebody scrappy that started from nothing, that got their butt kicked and then came to something. That's who I needed to look at. So I think somebody said it best on my podcast. Sometimes you become the hero you wish you had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. When you started making those improvements, getting those small wins, did you ever experience like it could have been a friend or somebody saying, that's not going to work out, or they had something negative to say about that? Did you ever experience that?
I still to this day, but like the difference is like now I've done quite a few crazy things, and so like there is some people in my life that no matter what I say, how boastful is like right now, like one of my biggest boasts is like I'm working on a company that I think is going to be worth $1 billion, hands down. Like
Nice.
I'm going to do it, right? And I'm trying to do that for all the reasons that like I'm basically trying to do it because I know the impact of that amount of success on the world. If somebody like me gets to $1 billion, then like I can impact so many things that I'm passionate about. And that's animals and kids and, like people that are poor and poverty and like changing subsystems. It's like, that's why I have to make it. It's not the money. I don't think about Tyler
Yeah.
sitting in the Ferrari at $1 billion. I'm not interested in that at all. I think about Tyler changing the foster care system, something we work in right now. Like it's
Yeah.
bad. And I say this all the time. It's not a throw at Elon Musk, but if Elon Musk had came from the foster care system and was mad about it, he would be changing it right now with his billions of dollars in connections. And that's what I always say too is like we need more good people that came from bad systems getting to their own success because they're the one that change these things
Yeah.
because they know how and they have a chip on their shoulder about them.
They also had the experience of knowing what it's like
Yep.
to
Yep.
being in that. Yep.
Yeah. And if you're not from that system and you wanna help with it, I implore that you get somebody like that is, right? It's like my experience with the foster care system, I've had some, it's small, like I've done some volunteering, but that's why I have Lisa as a partner. She grew up in the foster care system. She understands it on a
Yep.
different level than anybody has. She's been through the world's worst stuff, and she is a badass. She's out there fighting against foster care reform right now, like with her voice. And so that's the other thing is like you get on board with people that can make the difference too. You support those that can make this difference and have the best
Yep.
voice to support that change.
Yeah, I have a little small experience of being in the foster care system, and I I still remember this one part of my life where I had been around 4 years old. I always remembered my parents taking me some place where I had to be dropped off for, like, a week or 2, and I don't know why, but it's always, like, a week or 2. I don't know how long I stayed there before, but it was this little place in Andover, Minnesota, where I had to go, and it was like I wouldn't say like a typical foster home, but it was like where a group of kids were kind of there. And the only thing I remember is the people who ran it were mean. And I remember staring down a gun. This one guy pointed a gun at me and told me to stand there next to my brother. He just held a gun to my face when I was like 4 years old. That I wish I knew more context about it and who these people were. But I remember that as a child experiencing that gun. And I didn't know what that was. I was just standing there going,
Yeah.
what's he doing with this gun? It's like, I mean, they put me in a place I was worse off than not eating every day. It's crazy, but I never told
Is
that
that a
story to
memory that
anybody.
had to get drawn up years later? Like, do you always
I
remember that or did it
I
just come?
told my mom about it back when I was in high school,
Uh-huh.
and I go, when I was younger, because my family, I mean, they're poor the whole time. My brothers were pulled out of my family's house, I think, until like their sophomore, junior year of high school.
Wow.
We just lived in really poor conditions. But I remember asking my mom's like, no, that place where I had to go when I was younger, they held a gun to me. My mom tried to reach to the county, but the people who ran it aren't around anymore, whatever. She couldn't get anything. But I remember that memory popping up every now and then. It's like, that's so weird. know,
That's the
like
kinda stuff that drives me insane, it's
yeah,
like and it's interesting, sometimes you get so desensitized to stuff, it's like, I've, like, ran across a story from my childhood, and I'll tell it, and I'm like, "Man, that was messed up." Like, I was
yeah,
so desensitized to it, it took, like, really analyzing it after the fact, like, "Hey, Tyler, that wasn't normal, that wasn't right." The fact that you're so desensitized to that is probably not a good thing. It sounds like you've got into this, like, world where you're helping bullied kids, you're helping kids with confidence, things like that. It's like so everything that's happened to you, including that incident, has led you to the day too, right? And it probably
yeah,
makes you so much more impactful in their work that you're doing. So you never would I would never wish that on you, but it's part of what made
yeah.
you today
So
what you're
yeah,
doing.
I had a late friend of mine actually drew this out of me. Like, it was like, Tim, why aren't you teaching this stuff in your martial arts classes? Because I've been teaching martial arts for, well, since I was a kid, but I've been running my own business for like 10 years now.
Wow.
And he's like, "Don't you share this information with your students? Don't you tell them how to get out of bullying? Don't you teach them all this stuff?" I'm like, "No, Eric, it's embarrassing. Why would I do that?" He goes, "Because you're the only kid, you're not the only kid, you're the only person qualified that could teach them this stuff." I mean,
Yeah,
a person going to school learning about bullying, they're just learning from a book. They're still not qualified to help these kids,
totally.
to understand where these kids come from. You are, you need to do this. So that's why I started this podcast. That's why I started my nonprofit. I mean, everything is built off of him drawing it out of me, kind of make me do it. And
I
he was like,
appreciate that you're doing it. I appreciate it's so needed.
yeah, well, he made it like we kicked off Cry Chop Bullying. Like we had celebrities at Burbank, California attend this thing. Like he made it a big deal so I would do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was a celebrity personal trainer out in California.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
he
it's
got,
funny how, like, life gives you what you need if you'll use it
yeah,
appropriately, right?
yeah,
Every bad thing that's ever happened, it's like, if I could use it to destroy me or build me, and, like, that's the
yep.
choice you have every single time. And sometimes that takes some guidance, and you're in a place that you can give a lot of guidance to kids, it's like
Yeah, and you're in the same boat now too, though. What we both done is we took negative experiences and we're
yeah,
turning it into a positive
yep,
because you're using your voice as well,
yep.
and you're starting these companies up too. So you wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't go through that, which sucks. But now you can do it,
You
and
feel so like, I try to desensitize people to what wealthy people are too, successful people. It's like that like,
yeah,
when I was a kid, it's like success seems so unachievable. It's like that was for a different caliber person, and that's
yeah,
another, like, thing I'm so thankful for. You asked about, like, jobs that I had, it's like I was at one point, I was a bartender and a, valet through college at a country club, and they treated me horrible, absolutely horrible,
yeah,
and then you realized how normal these successful pillars of community were. I'm not gonna drop these stories today, but some of the stuff they were doing with like mistresses and like treating staff a certain way and stuff like that, these weren't good people either. It's like we
yeah,
need more good people making it to success. And so when I go asked to go speak or I'm on a podcast or something, I immediately, that's why I'm thankful for all of it. When I drop the dad was in prison stuff, the starting with $4,000 stuff, it's like all of a sudden, I'm not saying it to brag. I'm saying it because they then know it's achievable. Anybody
yep,
can do what I did. Anybody can have what I have. Anybody can be 220 pounds, if they get into the gym, and work out. Anybody can have these things. Anything I have, I am not, like a like anomaly. You can have this. You just have to put in the time for it. That's it. No
yep,
matter what I have.
yep. You have to have that mindset. I'm not going to go through what my parents went through. It's like
Yep.
I'm not doing that. No
Yep.
way,
Yeah,
because you already lived.
my brothers went through the same thing. One's a PhD in AI. He's one of the foremost authorities in the world on AI. Came through the
Wow.
same household. It's like my other brother is a computer engineer as well. Does really really well. It's like three people, that should have been statistics, that aren't. It's like you make up your mind what you want. And nobody's going to
Yep.
help you either. Unfortunately, you're
Yeah.
alone. I had my brothers, luckily. It's like we banded together really well. But went through the homeless thing, went through the giving blood for a meal thing, like I've been poor, poor, poor. And so, but the bright side of it is I appreciate everything I have now. Absolutely
Yeah.
everything. When I start the key on my brand new truck, I appreciate it every time. When I have a meal, like where I go to a restaurant, I can have anything I want on the menu. I appreciate it every time. I've had world experiences that people dream of. It's like anybody can have that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And with your successes, do you feel like some people who were your friends are not your friends anymore? Have you been experiencing that yourself?
So this is like I go into themes, it's like in my
Yep.
Underdogs podcast. So Underdogs, and my whole goal is to teach people that don't have the rich father or uncle to teach them business. I step into that role and
Yep.
make them know that they can have this. So I like try to like feed in accounting stuff and marketing stuff, but also like one of the biggest things is like your network. It's like the top 5, the people you're around the most in life will have the most impact on your life. And even more
Yep.
so, your partner, whoever you choose to be your significant other is the most impactful person you can ever choose. So actually, I've been doing a lot of episodes with like Judge Lynn Toller, who's on the divorce court for 10 years, a friend of mine who like worked around the dying in a business and was extremely successful. And then they started a dating company. It's like I've been lately on this kick about like surrounding yourself with good people,
Yep.
choosing the right partner, choosing that. I can't say that enough. Choosing the right partner will lead to your success, your happiness in every single way. You choose the wrong one, like you're going to struggle. You have to vet
Yeah.
that person and you have to really find somebody in your life. The other thing I noticed this is theme too, back to our childhoods and stuff. I never saw two people that banded together that weren't screw ups on drugs, alcohol, like that sort of stuff that didn't do okay. Right? If they both had
Yeah.
full time jobs and they weren't doing drugs and they weren't smoking and they weren't drinking, they did okay. Right? You find somebody in this world, it's kind of like that fast car song,
Yeah.
they get out of the town together. They save up, they come from nothing. And like, I like to think they ran away and like had a good life, so they worked hard together and enjoyed it, and so
Yeah.
like, I think that's all possible, but you have to make the right choices with the people. And yeah,
Yeah.
I unfortunately have outgrown a lot of people and I love them still. But if they're going to hold me back from what I believe my destiny is going to be, then, like I don't have a choice. It's like my
Yeah.
goal is to help a lot of people in this world. If somebody wants to
Yeah.
talk me into things that aren't going to get me there, then, like I'm going to look for people that will support me in getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through, I wouldn't say, I shouldn't really say friends because we're really friends to begin with. But it's like anything successful that I achieved, no recognition. Any negative thing I experience, all of a sudden they're there going, oh, that, we're like, what? What?
Yeah.
It's like totally reverse. But, I had a few friends who are successful too. And they're like, yeah, I go, yeah, that happens. That's just how it is. People don't like that,
No,
you know?
the people like it until you surpass them, right? So
Yep.
it's like I've lost a lot of people, and I think like I think it's because like I want more, It's like, and so when you outgrow people, there should be this like just some such a symbiosis. I Everybody in my network, I try to do anything I can for them. It's a team
Yeah.
sport. Not only do I want to make them see them win, but at the same time, if they win, they're a great connection for me. I build them up more powerful. It's like, and you have a good network, you can do a lot of good things, but so much few people like love you until you surpass them, or
Yep.
they seem there's no surpassing really either. We're each in our own journey. What is the label for surpassing, right? Because
Yeah.
I have a nicer car than you? That's not it. It's like because I'm doing more humanitarian work than you, join me. It's like I don't know
Mhm.
what surpassing anybody even is in this world.
Yeah, I've invited people in my network when I started Karate Chop bullying to join me on the journey, and they didn't want nothing to do with it. And then a few years later, when they saw what I was doing with it, they started to try to compete with what I was doing. I'm like, what? Like you could have just started with me, and then but they started, but they quit it because
Yep.
I think they realized that it's just too much work. Like, yeah, I put a lot of time and effort into this. I offered you to come be a part of it with me. You
Yep.
said no, so
Yep.
whatever. But
I feel like I
Tyler,
lost a lot of people through the
yeah,
bullying podcast because I was always this quiet person. I was so afraid of, and then it was just such a 180 for my character to start doing something like that. I feel like a lot of people looked at it as like, what is Tyler doing? Like midlife crisis. I don't know what they thought, but I think that lost me a lot of people that I thought I was close to. So,
I gained such a new network
yeah,
because of the bullying podcast.
that's
I
true.
had I had the guy from Whoop There It Is tag team
Awesome.
reach out to me and become on my podcast.
Oh, that's
DC
awesome.
Glenn.
Yeah.
I've met so many people. American Idol star. Can't remember her name. I should know. I don't remember all my guests. I'm at 100 episodes almost. I can't remember every single buddy,
I
but
think it's
I had
so
American
awesome.
Idol on the podcast just because people want to support the cause and
Yeah.
they want to give their take. And you realize all these successful people, we all have the same story in some way. we all struggled. We all struggled,
Well,
you know.
and not like everybody I interviewed, like you notice, like the thing that they were picked on, or like I used to bring a celebrity up in the beginning of the podcast every episode and like
Yep,
quiz Cliff. So it would bring like some, like realism to the podcast. Is like, and it was Lady Gaga or Eminem or like Tom Cruise, and it's like these were the people, and most often the thing they were picked on was the thing that made them successful. Lady Gaga
yep,
was picked on because she knew she was going to be somebody in music. She was picked on for that, and she became somebody in music.
yep,
So if they stopped, we wouldn't even know their name, And then our guests, the same thing. It's like so often that thing they were picked on was actually the thing that like led to their success or was their success thing.
yeah. So, well, Tyler, I want to thank you again for coming on this podcast. Before we leave, though, any advice for parents or for educators for parents who have those kids with no confidence, no self worth, and for educators who maybe had that mindset, well, that kid's a mess up, I'm not going to take my time to help them out. So it's a two-part question. Go ahead and answer however you
Yeah,
want to.
what I learned so much is like, so number one, believe it or not, it's a superpower, right? It's like the ability to overcome adversity is the key indicator of being successful. That trumps everything else. I mean, NVIDIA guy just came out and said it, the CEO, he's like, I wish you pain and despair or something like that in his speech. Bullying is a huge adversity that you overcome. I don't wish it on you, but it will mean that you will be more successful because of it, right? So
Yep.
to the parents out there, like the biggest thing you can get is a kid one friend. Watch them to see if they're siloing. That's really, really dangerous. It's like why Arizona is the teen suicide capital of the country. That was the reason, one of the reasons we started the podcast is watch for siloing, get them involved with the thing they want to do. That could be music, that could be art, that could be anything. Get them some sort of community, church. It's like that's the biggest thing you can do. And to the educators out there, hard love is not the way to go. Chances are they're facing so much more at home. It's like the things I remember my boss was a cop when I worked at the restaurant and I worked with my best friend. And he found out about when my house was raided by the FBI, right? And like dad was taken off to prison. And he's
Yep.
like, "Watch Tyler." He's like, "He's going through a lot right now." It's like you never the only reason I dropped that is because the next day I was picked on by teachers at the school. You never know what's going on at home, right? And
Yeah.
so like give them a chance, uplift them. I've had a couple people in my life, that did like the manager of my apartment complex, an amazing man. He was like a grandpa to me. He had me working at 13 years old. He that his kindness means the world. I had a guy that like owned a huge horse ranch. He taught me horses. And that love never left me. I just bought a ranch 2 months ago. And what I'm realizing is it probably was because of him. Those little
Yeah.
bits of kindness, you have no idea how they echo in your future.
Exactly. And especially when you're teaching or not teaching, when you're working with kids who are maybe the bully themselves, those kids who are the bully probably has something deeper going on at home or in their personal life that they should get looked at. And what drives me nuts right now is there's some schools out there who will ignore that.
Yep.
They will ignore that kid's behavior. I'm like,
Yep.
that kid needs to be looked at seriously right now. He needs help. That's why he's acting out this way. And
It's
it
so
drives me
true.
nuts. Yeah.
It's absolutely so true. The bully is like the other person, that like is dealing with something at home and it's just their way of lashing out. And so they probably
Mhm.
just need to be shown some kindness too, you know.
Yeah.
And then like I guess to the third person out there, if you remember that American Sniper, they give that
Yeah.
analogy on there's like a wolf, a sheep, and a sheepdog. We need more
Yep.
sheepdogs in this world too that will stand up for what's right. Like,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to be that person in the room that says, "Hey, what you're doing to that kid isn't very cool." If they're not being rooted on, that is actually the best way to get them to stop doing it in a way that's not going to hurt anybody, right? The
Yeah.
sheepdog is an imperative person in our society today, or even when you're at the
Yeah.
store tomorrow. Be the one to open the door. Be the one to let something go in
Yep.
the road rage and let somebody in. I wish we could camera drop on a society daily and show the actions. Because when you cut somebody off in traffic and they're pissed off and they cause a huge accident down the road, you had a part in that, or you could have let them
Yep.
in, right? You didn't have to let them in, but you let them in. And then what did that lead to? So kindness first.
Yep. And that's so hard to teach people to do, even as adults. When a couple years ago, I had a friend. Well, both of us ran for a school board, and we talked about it like episode 60, around like a year or so ago. And she and the school board race got political. Someone photoshopped a thing of her saying she's racist, and nobody, e- not even her friends, stuck up behind her on a line, except for
Huh.
me. So when I did it, of course I got attacked, but I'm like, I'm standing by my friend. I don't care.
Yeah,
So then found into me, but it's like people need to step up, speak up, but everyone's afraid of being attacked.
they
It's
are.
like we live in a society of fear, or we're gonna ruin our ego. It's like I ran for school board. I'm a business owner. I could have lost everything, but I didn't. I got attacked for a month. Big deal.
There's
And
so many times when we need to stand out. I study herd psychology a lot. I'm a nerd for it, like the stabbings that happen in public with everybody watching. You really have to train your mind to watch out for the things that you don't think are right. And there's
yeah,
chances to stop incidences. And I don't mean physically. I mean verbally, just by a little bit of kindness. It's like and
yeah,
a little bit of caring and a little bit of awareness. Don't let it get out of control.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, if people want to find you, get a hold of you, where can they do that?
Yeah, super accessible. All my social media channels are at Tyler Uriah, especially Instagram. If you want to get in touch with me, just reach out on my Instagram. Sometimes you get lost in the overflow, backflow comments or whatever, but I will check them from time to time, and you absolutely will get a response. So there's the at Tyler Uriah stuff. My podcast is Underdogs, Bootstrappers, and Game Changers, where I attempt to teach business to people that don't have the rich uncle. And yeah, other than that, glad to connect with anybody on any of these topics and band together with more like-minded, hard people in this world. So connect to me anytime.
Perfect. And those listening, you will find all of his links in the description of the podcast. Tyler, thank you again for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Such a pleasure and an honor. Thanks for everything you're doing.
If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And to learn more about our nonprofit, Karate Chop Bullying, and the anti-bullying and confidence-building programs we offer youth, visit karatechopbullying.org. For podcast episodes and updates, go to breakingbullying.com or email us at any time at breakbullyinghere@gmail.com. I'm Tim Flynn. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time as we keep breaking the silence on bullying.